Hello and good evening, all of you. So it's the 51st anniversary of Earth Day and a great day for all of us. A lot of things to learn, look back. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you on this web conference to celebrate and commemorate 51st anniversary of Earth Day. So everyone is talking about a big shift to a green and clean future. Countries around the world are in various stages of the movement. Some are way ahead, others are picking up the pace, some are in cruise control. So, how is India placed in this journey? Are we in driver's seat, all revved up and in gear? Then, what is stopping us from accelerating the moment? Yes, we need to educate people. Yes, we need to calculate the risks. Yes, we need stronger policies. Yes, I agree. The juggernaut we are trying to move is weighed down by too many of ifs and buts. But if we can join forces and give it a push it requires, I'm sure it will gather momentum. The sense of urgency is not just because we are lose the opportunity we have, but also mainly because nature is demanding it. A lost opportunity can be got again, but if we lose the climate war, we have no planet B. Well, the good news is the shift is definitely taking place, some faster than the other, but all geared to getting there. The biggest drawback, I believe, is lack of awareness. Whether we are talking about e-mobility, storage systems, green energy, or for that matter, even climate change. People need to know the pros and the cons, the difficulties, and they need to know what they can do. Well, organizations around the world are making an effort like Earth Day ORGs, Climate Literacy Mission, and Climate Pledge by leading companies are paving the way. We can do wonders through collaboration and coordination. Change is definitely the order of the day. The biggest change we can engineer would be the mindset of people. So today, let's hear what our esteemed speakers have to say about the changes, the plans, the roadmap, and protecting Mama Earth. I'm pleased to welcome all of you to attend this web conference, which is jointly organized by India Energy Storage Alliance and Earth Day Network, now known as Earth Day ORG. So it's a big momentum, and nothing can be achieved in a day or two. But together, as I am pleading everyone, if we stand together, a lot of things can change. So we are trying with our efforts to educate the masses, and this year's theme is climate literacy. And to understand this better, who else can be better than our next speaker we have? That is Ms. Karuna Singh, who is Regional Director Asia for Earth Day Network. And I would like to invite her to definitely share her experience. Before that, briefly, I would like to introduce her. Network's international office outside of United States. The program she oversees aims to use innovative methods to raise environmental awareness for all Earth Day Network programs in close to 25 countries among approximately 5 billion people. Karuna is spokesperson for Earth Day Network and makes presentation at global forums as well. These includes speaking at the 2015 UN conference. So may I invite Karuna Singh to definitely let our audience know the importance of Earth Day and what is that we are doing for it. Karunaji, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ashok. And good evening to everyone as we commemorate the 51st anniversary of Earth Day. While our broader theme is Restore Our Earth, that is the way we look at natural processes, emerging green technologies, and innovative and redirected thinking to replenish our aquifers, regrow our forests, regenerate soils, and drastically reduce carbon emissions. None of this can happen without climate literacy. That is why climate literacy forms the foundation on which everything else will be erected. Today, a healthy planet is not an option. It is a necessity. And the need for climate and environment literacy has thus never been greater. We are at a crucial crossroads in terms of the Earth's timeline for restoration. Climate education will prepare not just youth, but all to gain knowledge about anthropogenic activities that adversely impact Earth, and conversely, how climate change affects humans. A climate educated and environmentally literate public is likely to be better placed to take part in the green jobs revolution, make sustainable consumer choices that are good for our planet. With this in mind, we are running a global campaign where we are asking governments, corporations, individuals to pledge to see that climate education is not something that is nice to have, but should be a core subject in all countries. And we will hope that at COP26, we will be able to place this center forward. While leaders direct effective policy that ensures citizens help restore our Earth, we have 40 heads of state shortly meeting to discuss this at a climate summit called by President Joe Biden. It is just as important that all sectors, the corporate included, adopt green practices. The need for the hour is a climate neutral, resource efficient, and competitive economy. And let me say one thing, that this also benefits profits. And since corporates are driven by profit, let's face it, why not? This will help you to do that. We need to accelerate the transition towards a regenerative growth model that gives back to the planet more than it takes. One that helps keep its resource consumption within planetary boundaries. So I quote from a World Bank report that says, a growing body of evidence from companies around the world suggests that the relationship between ecology and economy is not as competitive as many assume. When well done, it's possible to advance both pursuits simultaneously. Take the case of the circular economy. This needs to shift from being front runner to the mainstream. A recent study by the European Union estimates that applying circular economy principles across the European Union economy has the potential to increase GDP by an additional 0.5% by 2030, creating around 700,000 new jobs. So there is a clear business case for doing that. And what do we have beside the circular economy? Reduction in costs. Going solar is a big reduction in costs. We see that Facebook has announced today that they will go 100% to renewable energies in all their operations. Why would they do it unless it was profitable? So my appeal to all corporates is that don't think that you're losing money with it. Have positive thought and do good for the environment as well. So Ashok, if there is any time, we have a presentation which we had sent to you, which shows what we're doing in India. If not, my appeal stays to all corporates. Please do your bit for the environment. You will be doing it to benefit yourself as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karunaji. I think we have 5 minutes for you to run the presentation. Would you like us to share it?
I think Shubham has it. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yes, it is. Karuna ji, I think your webcam is off. Would you please turn it on?
Oh my gosh, no one can see you. Click to share your webcam. Okay, is that fine now?
Oh, yes, I can see you now.
Remember, I'm not
Nice.
from the computer age. I'm 71. I wasn't born with computers, so it takes a little time. Okay.
No problem, ma'am. No problem. Let's go ahead. I will request you to wrap it in 5 minutes if you don't mind, because Peter will be waiting after.
It's just a bird's eye view to show you what we do in India. So this is really the world's largest environmental movement. And despite the fact that, you know, we have online programs now and can't go on the ground and do programs, we still have 1 billion people who are commemorating Earth Day. So could we have someone go to the next slide? Just a brief glimpse of Earth Day, a network now doing business as earthday.org, started on 22nd April 1970. Today, in its 51st year, we are so proud to say that we work and engage with other organizations in 195 countries to take the environmental movement forward. That's just some of our global advisory. You will see how committed people are. People are coming forward to do something for the environment. The problem that occurs, Ashok, is that a lot of people say we don't know what to do. So we are there to help you, to direct your thoughts. Come forward, especially those who are in positions to reach larger audiences, because time is short and we have to hurry that process of reaching people. So as we mentioned, Restore Our Earth is the global theme under which climate literacy is the brick on which we will build the structure. Can we move to the next slide, please? On 22nd March, we produced an ebook of ways that people are adopting some of these traditional, but a lot of them modern technologies also that are helping to rejuvenate water. This is online. Anybody can just log in and take it. It has no payment, nothing. Our idea is that those that are tried and tested techniques, let them be shared by everyone. Next, please. Farmers for Earth is another program, and yesterday we launched our first newsletter. This has been ongoing for the past 1 year, where we are talking to farmers, farmer producer organizations, agricultural university officials, NGOs, to better understand what are the ground realities of tried and tested techniques, and providing a platform by which people can adopt these. Because you know what is tried out maybe in Nagaland, like the Zabo system, could be tried out in other hilly areas, but people may not know about it. So this is a free platform that we are providing people. Okay, to restore our earth, we need to regrow our green cover. And what we have been doing is distributing fruit trees, especially in impoverished areas, so that people can sustain their, their systems and also earn a little bit from the fruit. So when we give it to them, we tell them, nurture them, and when the fruit comes up, you can earn some money from it. Because at the grassroots level, let us not forget that money is very important. I mean, our going environment friendly and all are idealistic if you don't have a stomach full of food. So we have to look after those needs. Next, please. Of course, we have a lot of programs for our great global cleanup. We've been appealing to college students to tell them to be superheroes, to do something cleanups. We can move to the next few slides, which are all about our projects. This is at Juhu Beach. We can continue, please. Okay, this is in Varanasi. And it is just as important that we appeal to youth and we give them a platform as well. So this was the great climate march that we had last year in Mumbai. And my Future My Voice campaign that brings together youth from different countries who already have a proven track record of doing something good for the environment. So I'm happy to say that at the moment we have 68 countries listed over here, youth from them. And where, we have youth from India and Pakistan working together, Israel and Palestine working together. They're all just so committed to the environment that political boundaries don't matter. Next, please. And I've just concluded this session. We're going to have 1 million people pledging and igniting 1 billion hopes. And this is with our organization called the Research Foundation that we have with Mr. Solanki, where we are going to ask people how is it that they can volunteer and give up the extra use of electricity and perhaps move to solar. So this has just been launched as we speak about half an hour back, and I'm so happy that I can share that with you.
That's really amazing, Karunaji. And we as corporates and stakeholders of this earth, rather than say, are so glad that organizations like you and people like you are taking these important steps, and probably together with you and your organization, companies can come forward and do their bit. As you said that everybody wants to do a lot, but they don't know how. How shall we do it? So I think we can definitely look at this aspect of reaching out to your organization and see that how together we can work for betterment and restoration of the earth. I'm really thankful for you that we collaborated for this event, and of course we are on activities together. And I thank you again for your wonderful address to the audience. Thank you, Karunaji. And I now take honor to welcome our next speaker. He is a global personality, and I must thank him that he took time out of his busy schedule to come and address us here. So let me invite Peter Salling, who is Director of Sustainability Methods at BASF. Peter is currently the director of BASF, and this is one of the largest chemical organizations in Europe and the world. And he plays an important portfolio here of sustainability, and his bio is very much there. But one point which I would like to mention, that he has been active in various organizations, and he is chairman of the IESA committee, that is TC 207 SC5. So over to you, Peter. In interest of time, I would like to invite you and ask you to address the audience here at the webinar. Peter, can you please set your web camera?
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction. Welcome also from my side. So I was not able, I'm still not able to start my webcam. I don't know what the problem is. Sorry for that.
Let me check with Tushar. Tushar, please see into that. And in the meanwhile, I can ask Mr. Peter to start his address, and then he also will be sharing his PPT. So Tushar, quickly look into this.
Yeah, so if you can load my presentation, is it possible?
Yes. Or would you like to share it from your end, Peter? Can you see a share option?
Yes, let me check. I don't have a share option, so okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so welcome to my, can you see it?
Yes, I can also see the web camera option there. Just click on the camera option. So Peter, I can see you as well.
Okay.
Then you just share. Yeah. Karuna ji is there backstage and she is listening to this conversation. And because she said that I'm from a different age, not the computer age, and we're still in the computer age and we're struggling.
Okay, so probably I will move on if that is okay for you. So yeah. From BASF point of view, I would like to share you a roadmap to climate neutrality in the chemical industry that was briefly published in a big press conference, so it's really up to date what I can show you here. And I will show you how we try to contribute to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions for all our sites in the world. So we have around 120,000 employees worldwide, and so everyone wants and needs to contribute there. So the chemical industry, as with BASF, is a thought and action leader. So we acknowledge that climate change is the greatest challenge of the 21st century. Chemical industry with BASF as thought and action leader is part of the solution. We are a key enabler in the net zero transformation of base chemicals and downstream value chains. You see chemistry everywhere and chemical products everywhere, so they contribute to our modern life and will also contribute to reduce the carbon footprint in the world. We must adapt our processes and our product portfolio and accelerate the transformation. We see long-term strategic necessity as well as the technical feasibility. So all our engineers are working on this topic and will contribute to that. How does it go in figures? So we have ambitious targets and we have looking for technical feasible opportunities. So BASF reinforces our targets and commitments. So BASF already cut carbon dioxide emissions to half from 1990 to 2018. So we made our homework until today. And we had really a lot of things to done, but we see also a lot of potentials in the future. Now BASF continues to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide by 25% compared with the year 2018, despite target growth and the construction of a large new Verbund site in South China. This means that compared with the basis year 1990, we aim to reduce our global carbon dioxide emissions by 60% until the year 2030, exceeding the European Union target by a significant amount. BASF is setting itself even more ambitious goals on its journey to climate neutrality with target of net zero carbon dioxide emissions globally by 2050. So that's a big challenge, and we have to do a lot of things following here the Paris Climate Agreement. But we are on the way, and we are willing to invest up to 4 billion euro planned by 2030 to reach these climate targets. So it's a big effort. It needs also a significant amount of money, but we are quite sure that we can achieve these goals. BASF pursues an ambitious carbon management program to achieve this. At the heart of the long-term transition towards net zero carbon dioxide emissions by 2050 is the use of new technologies, because we are a technology-driven company, and since more than 150 years, which is our history, we move on technologies and we develop and we invent new technologies. And they will the new developments will take us from fossil fuels to such as natural gas to more renewable fuels like also electricity generated from renewable fuel sources. Most of these technologies are being pioneered by BASF in collaboration with partners and they're currently in a pilot stage. Broad scale-up of these technologies will only be fully realizable after 2030. However, in order to accelerate the avoidance of carbon dioxide emissions prior to that date, BASF also continues to systematically implement continuous improvement processes for our production plants. Carbon management and also research and development programs as global innovation powerhouse are in place or will be started soon. BASF will progressively switch to renewable sources to meet the electricity needs and intends to invest in wind parks, for instance, to facilitate that. So that's a new idea and new approach of the company to achieve these goals. We focus on scaling up low-emission technologies to industrial levels because we are an industrial player and we deliver our products all over the world. And we contribute to a modern life, to a more sustainable life with our innovations. One of the most important new technologies that BASF is currently developing are electrically heated steam crackers, which are the starting point for all our synthesis and all our chemical products. So we produce basic chemicals such as ethylene, propylene, butadiene, but that is only the starting point. All the chemistry follows these basic materials and will come with really detailed chemicals, and a lot of chemicals then can be used in the society for a lot of applications. In addition, hydrogen is another important feedstock for many chemical production processes. To achieve carbon dioxide-free production of hydrogen, BASF is pursuing two processes in parallel: the commercially available water electrolysis and a new process called methane pyrolysis, for which BASF has developed a new process technology. Another important lever to increase energy efficiency is to use electrical heat pumps to produce carbon dioxide-free steam, because we use a lot of steam to heat our sites and our reactions in our vessels. BASF goal is to work with Siemens Energy to gradually ramp up this technology to industrial scale. The ultimate lever for carbon dioxide reduction is electrification, as I mentioned before, but therefore, for sure, you need to base it on renewable energy, and renewable energy needs to be prepared, money needs to be invested that this energy is available. To meet our high demand for renewable energy, we will focus on two pillars, ensuring additionally, invest in our own assets. So we're building up the portfolio of own assets with the goal to secure long-term supply at producer economics, because economics play an important role as well, for sure. And we want to purchase green power from third parties. So we also want to collaborate with other investors and other companies contracting power purchase agreements and renewable energy certificates with a goal to diversify the portfolio at current attractive prices. And that's really important as well. BASF is considering investing in its own solar farm with more than 20 megawatt to supplement local electricity supply. The concept under development to integrate industrial scale batteries based on BASF technology for energy storage as well. Because we have a long experience in battery systems, we produce battery materials, and for sure we sell them, but we can use them also for our own purposes. So we have a lot of opportunities, but in the key of all these aspects is innovation. So we want to innovate for even more products with lower carbon footprints. So we innovate different processes. We provide transparency on product carbon footprints to our customers. We offer options for reducing them and such promoting also in international standards and rules. And you might have seen in the introduction, I'm the chairman of the ISO committee for that. So we also, from the ISO perspective, we will support that with new standards and applicable standards to realize these ambition goals. Precondition for climate transformation is reliable availability for large quantities of renewable electricity at competitive prices. Consumer acceptance is needed as well, and cooperation between industry and policymakers is needed. That is also needed for the whole society, for different players in the society and different groups that support this ambitious strategy for our carbon dioxide reductions and our carbon zero goal at 2050. So with that, I hope I could give you some introductory ideas and also bold ideas which we want to follow as BASF, because the precondition for transformation is a reliable availability of these large quantities of renewable electricity. We want to use them in our new technologies. We have to invest money in that, but also know-how. So research and development is a key aspect there as well. So that at the end we are really in the market as a company that is seen as taking care for this important goal and also tackling this big challenge of climate change all over the world. With that, I would like to thank you for the invitation for today and also listening to my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. And we are glad that definitely looking into sustainability and climate change actions. And we are more than happy to have you on our platform. And I still would try to urge you, if possible, probably you can try to switch on your camera and we can have a group picture together. In the meanwhile, I take this opportunity to invite our next speaker. Yes, I can see Karunaji as well. I would also request everybody to put on their cameras, and Dr. Rahul Valavalkar, Dr. Ajay Mathai. I could also see Vishali Nigam. Can you please put on your cameras? Mr. Ajay Shankar. Super. So nice to see all of you. And I think it's a successful event for me because it's important that we have eminent women leaders in our panel. Every time it has been a tug of war for each event organizer to try and get important women leaders in the panel, and we at India Energy Storage Alliance and Customized Energy Solutions, this time again in partnership with their network, have together joined forces, and we have tried to get the movers and shakers of the industry and definitely the women lead. So now I don't want to waste any time, but the moment has come that important speakers are there. I would also like to mention a note from Sri Prakash Javadekkar's office. As you know, that he was supposed to join us today at this conference, but unfortunately last week he was tested COVID positive, and because of that he is not able to join us. However, he has given best regards for this, and he has been applauding the work of Earth Day Network as well as Indian Energy Storage Alliance, and congratulations from this end. That is what the note I have to share. At this momentous moment, Earth Day Network and India Energy Storage Alliance, along with emerging technology news, bring out a special issue every year of ETN. And this year also, we have a special issue on Earth Day to launch. And since we have important dignitaries here on the virtual platform, I request Rahul, Karuna, Dr. Reji, Mr. Ajay Shankar, and Vishali. Of course, we have Devapriya also from Earth Day Network to help me in launching the cover of ETN magazine issue. So Tushar, can you please share the cover of ETN magazine? So the theme of this issue is restoring our Earth and action through climate literacy. And Devapriya and Karuna ji has been telling us that everybody has been talking about climate change and it's passé now. The most important thing right now is climate literacy. So we have been working on this topic and joining hands with Earth Day Network. And in this issue, which will be uploaded shortly on etn.news website, you shall read a lot of interesting stories from Earth Day Network, as well as from our sector, that is renewable energy storage and e-mobility. So thank you all of you to helping me launch the cover of ETN magazine. And definitely now I move to the next leg of the session today.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you very
invite
much.
Dr. Rahul Valavankar. Thank you, Karunaji.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words?
Just that thank you all. Everybody's efforts are needed and we're doing it all together for ourselves. We're not doing it for Earth. Earth is going to last without us. We do it for ourselves. We have that human instinct of a slight bit of selfishness because of survival instinct. Let's bring it to the fore and do it for our own survival. Thank you very much. And I'm so grateful to ETN and to you and your organization, Ashok and Rahul, for helping us with this. It is such a proud moment for us. And I would also like to thank my colleague, Devapriya, who has been taking this forward with you. Thank you all the speakers for your valuable time. It has been a fantastic occasion. And please carry on. Will you excuse me? I have to just go to another function from here. If you will excuse me, please.
Definitely, we know it's a long day for you, Karunaji. Let's catch up later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I move to Dr. Rahul Valavankar, who is President, India Energy Storage Alliance, and he is the leading personality. Probably we call him the storage man of India. Everybody has a nickname for him, and from us, it is the storage man of India. And he has been tirelessly working for energy storage and e-mobility sectors, upliftment, development, and of course, talking with government. So that has been his primary role. And he set up this India Energy Storage Alliance again to further, pass on the knowledge and awareness about importance of energy storage and e-mobility. And I'm also glad to tell you that he's also been appointed as an advisor for Central Electricity Regulatory Council. And without wasting any further time, Rahul, over to you for your quick views on Earth Day.
Thank you very much, Ashok, Karunaji, and it's a real pleasure to be again participating in the Earth Day Network. My association with Earth Day started in 2000 when actually I was working with Tata Infotech, leading our in-house energy management efforts, and had designed a software product called EcoLumen, energy efficient lighting design software. And we used actually Earth Day to launch that product. And since then, it has been fascinating for me to keep on learning about the Earth Day activities and how it has become a movement which is no longer now driven by few individuals, but it is a movement run and led by people and across more than 120 countries. So that's a real inspiration. In 2019, I think before the obviously COVID ended up stopping everything, I was able to travel to US. And on one of my road trips was actually able to be at the founding place of Earth Day in Santa Barbara and participate in the Earth Day celebrations in person and see how the movement has still retained sort of its local flavor. At the same time, people are looking at bringing together thought leaders. So it's a real inspiration, and we at India Energy Storage Alliance are definitely looking at building on this partnership. As a global energy storage community, has also tried to replicate Earth Day's initiatives, where we have now World Energy Storage Day, which will be celebrated exactly 5 months from now on 22nd September, which we are trying to actually model the Earth Day network to try to replicate similar movement. Where we don't want energy storage or e-mobility to be mainly driven by only corporates, but we want it to become a movement for masses, where there needs to be a faster adoption happening. And as an India Energy Storage Alliance, we are working to actually exactly the theme what is there for today's event in terms of the green energy and clean transportation, where we see energy storage technologies as an enabler for both these transitions, for electric grid as well as for the transport. We believe that in terms of the greener grid. Already renewables have made great headways in last 2 decades, starting with wind and then now most recently with solar energy, where the economics of renewables is now undeniable, and we will keep on seeing larger opportunities for increasing this. And renew power is an excellent example of how now the newer technologies are dominating the new generation additions. At the same time, for managing the grid, we need to have supporting services which can very well be provided by energy storage technologies. And this is the area where economics is on now our side. As similar to the cost reductions which are witnessed by solar energy technologies in last decade, even energy storage technologies, particularly lithium-ion batteries, have witnessed almost more than 10x cost reductions in past decade, and the trend is going to continue. And this is happening by scaling up the manufacturing. We have scaled up manufacturing from maybe somewhere around 5 gigawatt hour in 2010 to maybe 50 gigawatt hour in 2015 to now almost 500 gigawatt hour around the world. Global manufacturing capacity is installed, and by 2030 it is expected to increase to 5,000 gigawatt hours. So this type of a scale up in manufacturing is leading to significant cost reduction, performance improvements, R&D efforts. Now, one key aspect we need to focus on is also the complete cradle to grave approach, and looking at sustainability, looking at recycling. And again, as IESA, we have already launched the initiative 2 years back as India Reuse and Recycling Initiative, because we need to make sure that when we are reducing dependence on oil, we are not ending up dependence on some of the other environmental challenging practices, particularly related to the mining. And this is the area where I think urban mining needs to be encouraged. We need to tap into our existing materials which are used. And the great part with most of the advanced energy storage technologies is that they are completely recyclable, because when you're using many type of batteries, you are not actually consuming the actual materials. It is mainly just the electron flow which is happening, and you can actually completely more than 99% material can be recovered and it can be reused. So this can become a very good sustainable practice. Even lead acid industry has demonstrated that with more than 90% recycling across the industry. Obviously, we need to be very careful how we recycle and what environmental practices we use. So this is a part where I think all of us need to be cautious. And as Karunaji mentioned, it is not about saving the earth, but saving ourselves. And we need to be cautious about that. And especially all the business leaders participating in this, you have that responsibility where we need to take these decisions in a conscious way and move forward. The other aspect where Earth Day is synonymous is with climate literacy and education. And this is again an area where we need to do a lot of work. There are still lots of misconception about the technologies in terms of, are these technologies ready? Do we still need to wait for another 5 years, 10 years before adopting these technologies? Is the economics right? Are these technologies too costly? So there is a lot of, I think, misconceptions being used to delay the adoption. And as an India Energy Storage Alliance, we are working through various initiatives such as IESA Meet, where we are trying to educate various commercial and industrial customers to show how they can right now adopt renewable energy such as rooftop solar plus storage and start not just saving money, but also improve power quality and reliability and have improved bottom line. At the same time, we have also launched recently a new initiative called EV Adopter Circle, where we are trying to do similar thing for the e-mobility sector, where we have launched a platform in partnership with also EESL, the Energy Efficiency Services Limited, where any corporates who are interested in adopting energy electric vehicles, they can place to adopting 10% EVs by 22, at least 25% EVs by 2025, and more than 50% by 2030, which is not as ambitious as announcing we will go 100% EVs at some future date. But the focus of IESA is trying to make sure that we do something right now, because we think always the first steps are the toughest steps. Once you get started with it, once you start doing it in a smart way, once you start seeing actually benefits of the transition, moving from 10 to 50 is going to be much easier. The toughest part is the first 10%, and what we want to achieve is to do this within next 12 to 18 months. So again, all the participants who are there, please do join us for this EV Adopter Circle initiative. And as an India Energy Storage Alliance and more than 130 members, we are there to support you in this transition. So we can help you in understanding which of those vehicles you can switch right now, how you can save money. And also ESL has generously approved that once we start doing this initiative and there is a demand, if there is any need for public charging infrastructure or even leasing the vehicles, ESL is ready to partner. They even offered the 3-month free charging being available to EV Adopter Circle participants at the ESL charging station. So these are the kind of things, initiatives where we need all the corporates to come together. And last but not the least, I think education and skill development, because the pace at which we are expecting this industry to grow, it is not to be possible to just grow organically. We need a lot of other skilled manpower to come in from other existing industries. And also this will be a great opportunity for reskilling and making sure that people who may be affected because of this technology transition also have opportunities to benefit from this new wave of technology transition. And this is area where through IESA Academy, we are working with ARAI, ICAT, IMA, Administrative Staff College of India, and many other partners for creating literacy about adoption of this technology. So with this, I would like to once again congratulate Ashok, Karunaji, and entire team for organizing this partnership and bringing all this key stakeholders together. And let's not keep it limited to just a celebration of one day, but let this be start of the movement where each year when we meet, we can count on the actual steps being taken and how we are moving ahead. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. So definitely, it's encouraging that India Energy Storage Alliance is trying to, help corporates for EV adoption, and a lot of your initiatives are moving in this direction. In my opening speech, I did mention about the Jogan Rath. That is, one person cannot move the Rath during Jagannath Yatra. We need a lot of us, a lot of people, a lot of hands. We need to join forces together. And it's only the start. Once the momentum is achieved, the Rath starts moving, then it's an easy play. So I think the initial glitch, that is what is the most important thing right now as industry stakeholders and country we should look at. And we should somehow focus all our energies for that right start and maintain that pace. So once the Rath starts moving, then I think the life is going to be easy for all of us. So definitely nice words from you, Rahul, and good to see you in the panel. I now move to the next important speaker, the important lady today, and I can see also Charlene ji, but I would like to invite Vishali Nigam Sinha, who is a very well-known personality amongst us in the panel. So Vishali is the chief, she's a chair Renew Foundation and chief sustainability officer of Renew Power, keen advocate of climate action, sustainable development, and gender parity. Amongst her major achievements and accolades, I would like to mention a few that she chairs the UN Global Compact Network, India's Gender Committee, South Asian Women. And of course, Vishali has been named in the She the People TV's 40 over 40 Women Achievers list, Asia's most influential women in renewable energy, and India's top 25 impactful CSR leaders. Vishali, I don't know this year how many more you are going to add in your list, and it's like honor for us to read all these accolades for you. So it's a moment of pride for us to have you here amongst us and address the audience on 51st anniversary of Earth Day. So we are all eager to hear from you, Vishali, your views and thoughts on 51st anniversary of Earth Day. Over to you, Vishali.
Thank you, Ashok. And yeah, it's kind of embarrassing when you read those, sort of list of accolades, but you don't have to actually. Just introducing a person is fine, and let people decide whether what we said resonated with them or not. But really appreciate that very, very august introduction, but I'm really delighted to be here with some very esteemed panelists. Hi, Shalini. Hi, Rahul. And it's great that you're having these conversations. Very important. So again, I know as the previous speaker mentioned, it's not only about an occasion, but I do feel some of these days kind of bring our attention to some of these issues which are important and require consideration. But I think there are enough people committed that it is not limited to tokenism. So on that note, let me start by saying it's an absolute honor to be here with all of you. I think just seeing people on screen is a delight based on what's happening around us. I mean, it's just so sad to see what's happening. So some of these events take us away from all of that, and bring us to conversations which provide us a bit of a change of scene and mind. So thank you for doing this once again. And let me start by saying that, we are actually, I mean, if we think COVID is an emergency, I think climate, literally we are feeling this right now. But what we see around us and we read around us and the sort of the narrative and the conversation we hear to all the time and listen to is way more severe, the one around climate, right? So it's not climate change, it's, and we've said this a few times, it's really climate emergency, and it's basically an emergency for us to save our mother earth, and it may sound a bit dramatic when I say that, but honestly when you say it that way, I mean, we can be individualistic, but when it comes to taking care of mother earth, I think it kind of drives us to do more than what we would do for ourselves, and it drives us to do more for each other as well. So really, you have to look at it as our sort of our journey to save mother earth, because that's what's happening at every level, whether you look at the oceans, whether you look at the forests, whether you look at the deserts, whether you look at women, whether you look at any stakeholder. There is an absolute calamity which is happening, and different people feel it in a different way. If you ask me, if I look at, did the wind blow the way we expected? I mean, nobody knows which way the wind blows, right? When we got into the business, people said, okay, you should start praying to the wind god now and the sun god now. No, there is more of a science behind it, and we study that to understand what makes our generation more certain. And trust me, I can tell you that that certainty is being impacted by what we see because of climate. Okay, so I'll put that on the table as well here. And so today, as we start our effort to restore the earth, I think there are a gamut of steps which each one of us really need to take. And maybe perhaps I will focus a little bit on literacy and adopting clean energy and clean transportation as well, right? And so based on my expertise and understanding, I'll be overweight on certain and underweight on other areas. And I guess, with Rahul here, I should probably be underweight on transportation, etc. So I'll just kind of refer to it. So, yeah, I mean, climate change is omnipresent. We all know it. It's not only affecting individuals, it's impacting communities, it's impacting countries, it's impacting the globe. The greenhouse gas emissions from human activities are driving climate change, and temperatures continue to rise and soar beyond what we ever expected. And at the turn of the century, they will pass 3 degrees Celsius, which is scary. Right? And so if we think that we are facing issues, you can imagine what that bump up is going to do to the poorest and the most vulnerable. And they're the ones I think we should really be caring about, because they are helpless and they depend on us and many others who have the funds. So it really is critical that we focus with like a laser-like focus to do various things, one of them being adopting clean energy. So I guess it's quite a common thread across various forums and events to talk about adoption of clean energy. And over the last few years, we have seen a lot has been done, and and there is scientific evidence that it is not, it is not a campaign which somebody started and everybody is just running after it blindly. it's really scientifically sort of established that, and I think all the skeptics have been trumped, and honestly, no pun intended here, but we really need to appreciate that the hard truth is that the global greenhouse gas emissions are more prevalent than they ever were. So just to kind of look at a few numbers I see here from the BNEF report of 21, where, prior to Industrial Revolution, the atmospheric carbon dioxide never exceeded 300 parts per million in human history. In the 20th century, atmospheric CO2 concentration passed 300 parts per million units, and in 2015, it's going to be passing 400 parts per million. Okay, so just to give you, even if you don't understand, like, this is to the audience, I'm sure the experts do, but just look at the gravity of the numbers which we are seeing here, right? And this is all science-based research we are talking about. So there is a significant, kind of issue which we are facing, and we should definitely, look at fixing some of these critical issues together. I think we can't do it individually, and climate change has moved ahead in a very significant way. The world has come together. People have signed net zero. The Paris Agreement has been a step in the right direction, and I think we have done a lot. Just committing and working together. Even in our country, you look at our commitment. I think we have been quite a leader and have committed generation of. What if we ask people like us, when we heard these numbers sometime back, we said, "Oh my God, it's how is that going to even happen, right? Based on where we are now." But if you talk about the kind of progress we've made, whether it is solar, whether it is wind, whether it is B2B adaptation, energy access, microgrids, EV storage, hydrogen, we weren't talking about these things even a few years ago. All right, now we have strategies, we are committing funds, investors are chasing these ideas, right? So honestly, it's good to see the kind of progress we are making, and that happens when you focus on, when we set targets and we work together towards them. I think the renewable energy space clearly is a good example. I think without doubt, and I'll be happy to take questions later on, that when you commit to a goal and work towards it systematically, you bring in money, you bring in entrepreneurs, you bring in change in policy, you get to action, and that's what we need.
भेज दी मैंने तुमको presentation, वो एक बारी मैम के साथ share कर लो.
I think somebody needs to go on mute. Okay, fine. So yeah, I'm going to continue, right? So now let's come to literacy. We all need to do more on digital literacy for sure. I think often we go on unmute when we have to stay on mute. And I think Shalini's heard this before. I say it's better to be on unmute than to think that your video is off and it's on. So on that lighter note, I'll just continue my presentation here. So let's talk about the next topic, which I said I'll address, which is climate literacy, right? And though it may not seem significant, right, we are very focused, and especially in India, we are very focused on numbers, etc. The soft value and the power of educating more people around what is this? It's a little bit like COVID, and I am drawing this analogy. People say कि ये तो बड़े शहरों की बीमारी है, तो गांव में नहीं होता है, kind of a thing, So climate literacy is also a little bit about, like, there is ignorance. People have no clue why they're doing what they're doing, right? So I think we really need to work towards, whether it's the government, whether it is the communities, whether it is businesses. I think there's scope and reason for a lot of work to be done on educating people around climate. So, I just want to say that, education is an essential element of the global response to climate change. It's help people understand global warming, and I think because courtesy digital and communication, there's a lot of optical pull towards getting people to see what's going to happen. What's going to happen if we remove forest cover? What's going to happen if forests start burning? People don't know like what is going on and why are you relating everything to climate. But I think a lot of effort, and if you look at the kind of work even World Economic Forum and other platforms are doing to just make an ordinary child understand, right, what is this that we are facing and what impact is it going to have on us, I think it's quite significant. I think corporates like us have a huge amount of responsibility to lead and advocate for programs, whether it is RE100, whether it is net zero commitments, any other science-based commitments, and lead the way, commit and talk about it, right? So that advocacy firsthand, lead by kind of walking the talk is very important. And the more we can get engaged in this, I think it's going to have a huge impact on people joining and us working towards the commitments we really need to get to, so that we don't cross that 3-degree critical threshold towards the end of the turn of the century. So even again, I want to say that at Renew we also work at the community levels, where we are working with women. Very important to work with women because they're the ones who are impacted most. I say that in all the forums, whether it is, I mean, if you look at the segment of the poorest of the poor, who gets impacted the most by it? It's women, right? If you look at women who are in rural India, who are like locked in rooms cooking with coal, who are they? They're women. Whose health is being impacted? It's women. And if you look at the reason why women have to do a lot of this is because there is no electricity, and so they have to get up in the morning, run, get water, cook, etc., because it gets dark and they're not going to be able to do the basic chores, and so therefore they need that clean energy. So what do we need to do? We need to educate and engage with these women. We need to engage them not only by educating them, but ensuring they get into the local, I guess, panchayats, etc., where their voice can be heard, where their experiences can be understood, so that those can be taken to policymakers. And as we make policies, we also want to make sure at the highest level, we have women who are the ones who are empathetic and are also getting some of these things done, right? So I think there are many other elements around literacy which I could talk about. Children, young children, huge impact they have. So what we do, I just want to talk about these are small initiatives. We put solar rooftops in schools in the remotest parts of our country, because that's where we operate as a renewable energy company. We have a solar and wind farms there. And so we put solar panels there. And so children get educated about what these structures are, right? And how are they going to help them? We don't have to say that to them. They see it and they feel it, right? And so then how is it that, and then we teach them about it, right? Then what is the physics of it? What is this, whatever the science, and how is it going to impact them and the rest of their communities, etc. So these are ways in which we can definitely engage and educate communities at all levels, corporate, rural, urban, and of course, entrepreneurship is a very powerful self-learning tool. So the more funds we get to engage entrepreneurs in this area, I think there's going to be a huge amount of self-learning, because entrepreneurs by definition learn and solve problems, right? So, I mean, these are some of the ways I think we can kind of take some action there. And I think corporates should partner and come together. Industry, academia should partner to come together to do more. So, so there's huge amount of scope there. Then the other thing, which is adopting clean transport, which I promise I'm not going to talk more about, but let me talk a little bit about it. One is that we all know that 14 out of 15 most polluted cities in the world are based where? They're based in our country, right? According to the 2017 Global Burden of Disease report, some 1.1 million people in India die because of air pollution, etc. So, I mean, there's no doubt that a lot of the sort of pollution is caused by what choice we make for our transport, right? And so it's about 71% of contributor to Delhi's pollution as well. So just give you the magnitude and the gravity of this situation, right? So this gives us an urgent need to make the switch to cleaner transport. You know, in 2016, India adopted Euro 6 equivalent standards, which came into effect in 2020. So while this is a good step forward, but you know, how can we do more to mitigate the vehicular emissions, right, which we see? So perhaps the biggest market for clean transportation in the world is India. There's no doubt about that, because you see Teslas, etc., coming in, and they are coming in after they've done all their research and study, etc. So the opportunity is huge, but there are blockades. And now let's look at, before I close, let's look at some of the blockades. So while you know, states are increasing, adopting policies to, you know, kind of increase the clean modes of transportations. But basically, we have to look at even the cost associated with this, right? Because that is very important if you look at the large middle class in India. And I think the numbers don't necessarily stack up due to the cost of lithium-ion cells, and lack of lithium-ion, I guess, is the reason for the lack of lithium ion in India, is the cause for the higher cost of batteries. So you know, so that is one reason. I think the other reason is that you know, is there a cost advantage? Because, you know, again, having the largest middle class, we're going to also look at the cost advantage some of these vehicles offer vis-a-vis other vehicles and options which are available. So we will have to take some policy actions and stringent policy actions, so that there is an automatic switch, and kind of which facilitates the switch by most of the users here, right? I think one of the other things we can look at, given the shortage of lithium, etc., is how can we use well, you know, also the other thing is, even if we put charging ports, etc., which is important, there is also a question of how clean is that, because the source for that is through coal generated electricity. So given that, we have to look at other alternatives, like perhaps green hydrogen, etc., and bake it into the, you know, continuum, so that this becomes a cleaner source of electricity all in all. And so I'm wrapping up with 5 simple ways by which India can adopt cleaner modes of transport. Perhaps government subsidies, tax exemptions will be a driver, incentivizing car manufacturers to produce more electric vehicles and making that switch. We should have a more systematic department of clean transport. Perhaps if we don't already have it, I'm not 100% sure, but that's definitely a good idea. And incentivizing you know, consumers, that is very important. And last but not the least, R&D to ensure there is innovation around this area, right? So you know, we are deploying electric vehicles for a lot of the work we do in a small way. It's just a little small tiny drop, but we're doing it. I think we can do a lot more. Let me close by saying that the climate emergency must be taken seriously, as if we don't take action now, it is going to impact the next generation. They are our future, and they don't deserve this. And you know, we should not leave a planet which is inferior to what we inherited. On that note, I will pass it back to Ashok. Sorry, I took a little longer than planned for.
Oh, no, Vishali, you spoke fabulous, and it was definitely quite insightful. And much of the points which you shared with us, I'm glad to share with you that, you know, last month I had an opportunity to interview Dr. Shalini, and, you know, a lot of the thought process are similar, like empowerment and the problems which we are facing and empowering women. So I would be more than happy to share that interview with you to read. And when you were speaking, I could correlate whatever you're saying with me as an individual. And as Karunaji mentioned, that let's be selfish and think of ourselves. So we have created all this, and we need the earth. The earth doesn't need us. So when you spoke about the forest fires, the climate change happening, this is all done by us. My native place is Uttarakhand, and you know what a transformation. Now we can feel the heat. Now oxygen levels, you can feel that it's warmer. It's not cold anymore. A lot of industrialization, deforestation, etc., has been taking place in that place. And electricity again is a major challenge. Clean water is a challenge, but who we need to blame it? So let's blame ourselves and let's pull up our socks and work towards it. I also would like to mention one point which Karunaji mentioned, that they are running a campaign of distributing fruit saplings. So that is also empowering the villagers there, that they can uh, grow those plants, and later on that also becomes like a source of income to them. And we at Customized Energy Solutions also have taken up an initiative of empowering women, and we run a microgrid projects in Jharkhand, where we are financing a project where we have not only put up a microgrid there, but we have put up a tur dal processing unit where we help them not only cultivate but pack it, market it, and sell it. So I think together we all need to join forces and do our bit. And I remember Charlie had mentioned that only planting trees and only building microgrids is not going to help. You need to drive it. You need to take it to next step, and you need to make it sustainable. So yes, Shalini, I remember all that. And because Vaishali mentioned all these points, I thought let me rub them hard again on this forum, because this is the right time, right occasion, that leaders are here and everybody is talking, and we can probably elaborate on that. Yeah, Rahul wants to say something.
Ashok, so since you mentioned about the Jharkhand project, so I just thought I'll also give a small plug to one of our partners, Rangde. Again, it is a microfinance institution started by Ram and Smita, and they have been doing a lot of good work over the last 12 years in the country. So one of the things is, it is not about, a lot of time when we talk about these things, we talk about more on the technology term, or just about education, but I think a key role is also in terms of the business models and financing and other aspects, which sometimes we feel are mundane, but actually a lot of changes are possible with those. So like, for example, particularly this the microgrid project which Ashok talked about, we have now Rangde joining us as a partner, where they are making now microloans available to these rural co-ops, so that they can purchase some of the produce and then start using microgrids for doing economic value addition. And that's how it can become sustainable. You cannot just keep on going to CSR for funding all these activities. So these type of, I think, innovative ideas and business models are also important. So I just thought, since you talked about the microgrid project, I'll just add that a small plug for also Rangde, who has been enabling some of these innovative business models for us.
Thank you, Rahul. And thank you, Vaishali, for that insightful talk which you delivered. And now I would like to welcome Dr. Reji Mathai, who is Director ARI. And we all are talking about e-mobility. And who better than the man who calls the shot, the organization who approves all e-vehicles on the road, to give us some insights about what is actually taking place in e-mobility sector, and how startups or the entire ecosystem is trying to transform. So I would briefly introduce Dr. Reji Mathai. He is Director of Automotive Research Association, and he has worked for around 28 years in automotive sector. And now over to you, Dr. Reji.
Yeah, thank you, Ashok, for this forum and this time that we are interacting. And I'm quite glad to hear my previous speakers address on various aspects of it, and especially my previous speaker speaking about the transport sector, because I will be dwelling a little more onto that only, because the other areas I know many of you will be speaking on. My previous experience with Indian Oil, I was working with Indian Oil Corporation, so I have a lot of association with the auto fuel policy, how it was formulated, and how we are transiting into a new regime as such. What we have been doing means is India really when they moved to BS6 was a challenge. Means it was not an easy step for any one of us, because we skipped one of the emission norms. And that has been taken very well by the transport sector and by the oil sector both. They both have been doing their bit, and the effect of it, as Ms. Vishali was speaking, that the transport sector contributes a major chunk to the emissions. Its impact will take time because the newer vehicles coming in, the volumes coming in will be taking time. Meanwhile, the other areas, if you look into the source apportionment study, what have been the other areas that have been contributing to this pollution? There is a need to assess that and need to address that also. Somehow these two sectors have been in focus, and there has been much been done on these two sectors, the auto sector and the oil sector both. That is my first point that I want to just communicate, because you get a clear picture when you look into the source apportionment study, what are the other sectors and how they are impacting the ambient air quality. Secondly, the transport sector has been, what can I say, nothing comes proactively, but through legislation of the CAFE norms, that is the norms that brings in reduction in the CO2 emissions from the, has been adopting it, and there has been a significant impact on the CO2 emission reduction. So when we look into the fuel economy reductions or the fuel import reductions that are coming into play, the impact of the CAFE norms is significant in that. Along with that is now government's focus. Now suddenly somebody was mentioning that the government has been in a planning mode, and now they are in a very great action mode. We see the introduction of ethyl alcohol, means alcohols E20, coming in a big way, as 20% of ethanol will be getting blended in gasoline in the coming years. And this roadmap is also almost finalized. Vehicle manufacturers are accepting it, and there will be introduction of ethanol, and that not only will reduce import dependency, but also you can see a low carbon intensive fuel coming into play. Speaking of that, government CNG roadmap is also significantly putting into place. Bio CNG, that is waste to CNG, is again coming in a big way. Government's roadmap on LNG, liquefied natural gas for long distance vehicle, these are also in putting, the roadmap is in place. The hydrogen infrastructure, yes, we have been speaking a lot about that. There is a lot of challenge on particularly the ecosystem being developed in that area. In my previous company, we have blended CNG with hydrogen, and a trial has been underway. It is almost near completion in Delhi with HCNG. The results, once it will be out, we can see the impact of adding a little bit of hydrogen in the present system infrastructure itself. So that facilitates the use of hydrogen, and we get some hands-on experience in it. When I was speaking about the vehicles, one of the areas that is there, the government now has started putting a lot of focus is the end of life vehicle policy, the ELV. So the older vehicles, they want to phase out. The scrappage policy they have recently announced. Although it is not mandatory as of now, but the incentive schemes are slowly coming into place. There's a lot of interest in many players to set up the scrappage units. It works in two ways. One is it will take out the older vehicles from the system. Secondly, whatever dumping and all that was happening to the ecosystem, this will be addressed. I can see a lot of old vehicles, particularly with STUs and the police places. These are which are being with them, what is to be done sort of a thing. So once this scrappage policy is in place, I think this will pave the way for addressing many such issues, and we can see new areas coming up. One area that ARI, as a regulator, as one who makes policies, is working is on the skill development. I think this was spoken in the past. We have an academy that trains students, engineering college students, and even professionals in the new upcoming areas. So EV is one area that we do a lot of work, particularly because we know the regulations, we know what is needed. And so we are able to support the ecosystem in a best way. We can take people in, we can equip them, we can provide them guidance. And along with that, now government has also provided a startup scheme sort of a thing. They are funding it with us. The DHI has done this. It is called Technovu. ARI is now putting it in its website and all, where startups or people with ideas can put forth their ideas. We will be funding them and doing handholding. These are areas particularly related to EV and transport sector. Lastly, let me speak about the EVs because I know everybody is looking forward for that. We have been talking about it. Government's FAME policy has come in. We have made very stringent measures in that so that India doesn't become a dumping ground, because that would have been a very easy sort of a thing, people importing and assembling and putting forth the equipments out there. So we have now a good policy which helps the Indian ecosystem to develop. And that is a slow movement, what is happening as of now. There is sufficient fund to be disbursed with the government, and but the checks are little thorough. That is where I think it is still needed, because we need good equipment, good machines to be in the market as of now. And the new regulations, very focused on the regulatory mechanism. Whatever regulations we are, the Europe or the US, we have been adopting them with Indian conditions. Slightly more stricter conditions are placed because we don't want things to go wrong in any way. In that EV sector, as battery is one of the key components, government has recently announced the productivity linked incentive, the PLI scheme. So the fine print is yet to come. Again, this will encourage setting up of factories, productions, exports. So government has a key focus on that area. So once again, there is a very strict line in that they don't want somebody to just import it. They want to set up the facility of manufacturing it here, so that you get the jobs, you get indigenous products in India. So that is a step again government is pushing up, and we are in the way of making robust policies for that. So when I look into this forum, means basically, I really am glad that we are in action mode now. We are in a phase where we are putting up a lot of fronts, a lot of options before the manufacturing sector, people who want to venture out, so that everybody can come together and move ahead. So this is a good time to, as initially mentioned by Mr. Thakur also, that everybody to move together, come together to attain the goal of protecting the Mother Earth, nurturing it, and giving to the generation, coming generation in a better way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mathai, and definitely you did inform us all about e-mobility and how automobile industry is gearing up for this major shift. And yeah, you wanted to say something?
I will be taking leave because I have a meeting in another 10 minutes. So that's all. Means in case you have anything more, then I can just address it
Yes.
here itself.
So I would like to take this opportunity and ask all of you, I can see all of you have switched on their camera for a group photo before you leave. And even Vishali has to jump into another conference. Today is Earth Day. So I think every hour some conference is taking place on this globe, and each one of you is being engaged in these forums. So I will request the organizers for a group picture. And I would like to thank Vishali and Dr. Mathai for joining us. I know you would like to leave. And thank you again for joining us here. And we will shortly touch base with you. And Dr. Mathai, again, for this issue, we are carrying your interview in ETN. I think, Vishali, you will need to catch a lot on ETN, because we have been interviewing and covering all these major personalities. And next, I would be interacting with you in our upcoming issue. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Perfect. So another important person in today's panel is Dr. Charlene Sarri. I'm fortunate enough to meet her several occasions and interact with her. And last month we did carry an exclusive interview with Dr. Charlene Sarri, and she has been a pioneer in this sector. And there's a brief profile of her, but I would just like to introduce her in a bit that, the most important thing is human resource, and she comes from that background and that psychology and that psychology of an entrepreneur, psychology of developing organizations and to get in the core of the organization and mold them that is what Charlene has been doing. She is director at various boards of companies. You can definitely see Linde is one of them, Kirloskar Oil Engine. So she has definitely seen this corporate world for a long time. She has molded it and she is taking active part. And now on her entrepreneurial journey with an e-mobility company called as Electromobitat, that is a new venture she is venturing in. And she has a lot to share from her vast experience. And at this forum of Earth Day, I'm definitely going to ask Dr. Shalini to share her views on climate literacy and again, climate change. This is the topic we are discussing today. So over to you, Dr. Shalini. Would you please unmute yourself, Dr. Shalini? The green button, the mic button on your right-hand side. Tushar? Just a moment, Dr. Shalini, we will help you.
Hello, ma'am. You are self-muted. You can unmute yourself and you can talk.
So, Acha, I think she must have, the panel must have gone down. Just click a picture of that and share with her. Tushar, I think you must have hide the window, the go to webinar window. You just need to click and you can see that picture there. Even I have sent you a picture, Dr. Shalini, if that helps. I think that window must be hiding somewhere. You just need to click on that icon of go to webinar and this should pop up. No, not yet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry
yes,
about
we
that.
can.
Apologies.
Super.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay,
No problem. No problem
thank you
at
very
all.
much, Ashok. Thank you very much for the invitation. And I think the previous speakers have done such a great job that is not going to be easy to follow them. But let me share with you some of my thoughts and experiences as Ashok that you have put forth. Climate literacy, as I understand, it's the awareness and conscious responsibility of the impact of our actions and that each individual must take towards preservation, responsible use, conservation of natural resources, and the whole narrative around it. So in India, we've often seen that if somebody is conserving, the narrative around it is he or she is conjuice. Whereas I lived in the Netherlands for close to 5 years, and if you are conserving, it's the cool thing. So I think there is a huge mindset change that we need to do because we are a poor country, and it pained my heart to see that they are a rich country, but they take pride in recycling and conservation. And there's a lot that I learned in the social behavior exhibited through pride, self-initiation, lifestyle and conformance with climate literacy. The Prime Minister in the Netherlands routinely cycles to work, and he's very happy because it contributes not only to climate but also fitness. Now, for doing that, you need the right roads, you need safety, you need infrastructure, but in the end, net, the entire community stands to gain. And this becomes a norm for ordinary citizens. It's not an exception. It's not that on a Sunday we want to go cycling to Lodi Garden. It is something like cycling to work. That's the mode of transport. People do not have cars there. In the Netherlands, very few people, especially in the city, would have cars. And if they do, it's only for going out of the city, not for within the city. And I think our country needs it more than they need it. The other I saw was in New Zealand, where I witnessed climate literacy at its best when I was at a boat trip. And in that trip, I saw that the hospitality staff at the end of the trip would take so much pride in ensuring that they clean the waste disposal of the toilet of the boat before disembarking, so that not a drop goes into the ocean. And they were so proud of their clean ocean that they said not a drop must go to contaminate the waters. I think that's the kind of fervor and pride we need to create. And this happens right from school. So school children have an audit of their tiffin box to ensure that no plastic is used to wrap their sandwiches or whatever else food material. So it's inculcated right from the start. So climate literacy is an engine not only for creating green citizens, advancing environmental law and policies for accelerating green technologies or renewable energy or associated jobs. However, we today, when somebody tells me the ozone layer is depleted, I don't care because I don't understand what it means. But the moment I see there is PM2, in Delhi going up and I cannot breathe, my child cannot breathe, then it starts to impact the common man. And that's when it really, really hits me hard. So I think we need to be able to translate all of that into data and dashboards to create awareness, to educate, and then to take actions at an individual level, not necessarily at a corporate or a government level. Unfortunately, in India, the amount of awareness in the masses, in the local bodies, in the panchayats is zilch. It's very, very low. We need to create climate and environmental literacy in cooperation with the government, but also with the civil society. And younger generation needs to be the flag bearers so that the education system is overhauled and they become the ambassadors of change. So I think that's my view on climate. And Ashok, pardon me if I've been very vociferous and passionate about it, but that's how strongly I feel about it. And it pains me to see that there are simple solutions that we need to adopt, not rocket science, to be able to make it a part of our day-to-day activity. Having said that, let me move into my area of work, or my dharma today, or karma actually. So I worked at Schneider Electric, and there I've also got exposure to the distributed energy system. And we worked on microgrids and access to energy. And along with HR, I was also heading the access to energy business. And then at Philips, I headed that business globally. And that's where I learned about lighting and how access to lighting through solar home lighting systems and standalone systems, we worked in all parts of the world. Now I bring in all those learnings in the EV space. So I am the co-founder and an executive director at the EV charging infrastructure company called Electromobilitat. And we help put the ecosystem put together, because you need the power, you need the footfall of the fleet operators and the consumers, you need installation, commissioning, maintenance, you need the software, the hardware, and the billing system. So all of that needs to be put together to make it successful. Today, we all know, and thanks to all the information that was shared by Dr. Raji, that transport contributes to almost a quarter of carbon dioxide emissions globally, and even in India. I mean, though the biggest contributor, by the way, through research is biofuel still in India, though China has transport being the biggest contributor of carbon dioxide emission. But India is ramping up fast and will grow to 1/3 of the contribution. So we are really, this sector is moving the fastest, I would say. Cars aren't the only vehicles that pollute, by the way. So airplanes, ships, trains, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, all of that are very big contributors. And we all know in India, two-wheelers are a bigger contributor than three-wheelers as well. So we need to be able to do a lot in the two-wheelers, and I'm very happy with what the government is doing. We are progressing very well, and I'm a great fan of Jasmine Shah and his policies in Delhi that are coming out as the new tenders coming. So the global passenger car fleet is projected actually to double by 2050, and India is going to be faster. And with most of the growth happening in the developing economies, and India becomes the biggest one. And that's why India is a little bit wary to also sign up for the net zero, because we are on a different curve and our per capita is the lowest in the world. So, it's not going to be easy for us to be, I mean, it's a controversial topic, whether we want to be net zero or carbon neutral. We can talk about it later. But therefore, switching from IC vehicles to electric fleet will definitely contribute in a big way for our environmental problems, our ambient pollution, and yeah, in Delhi it impacts very much, and in Uttar Pradesh. However, to reap the real benefits of EV, we should also focus on increasing the renewable mix in the electricity in the grid, feeding back to the grid. So public transport, of course, would also play a very big role, and unfortunately, that's taken the biggest toll due to COVID, because social distancing is one of the biggest contributors to the spread, coupled with e-commerce and home delivery, which is taking off through the roof. So e-mobility can really turn around the cost and the economies of scale, and reduce your carbon footprint hugely. Grid infrastructure would require to be smart and interweaved with the grid, the renewable energy feeding back to the grid. We need to do much more on storage. We are doing, and I was so happy to hear new alternate sources which are going to be coming soon, whether it's ethanol, CNG, bio CNG, hydrogen, whatever else. And so EV OEMs, battery manufacturers, powertrain, technology players, and interlinking all of this for faster spread is very important. I think that's on EV. I would say And to your last question, Ashok, which is always very, very close to my heart, is the role of women in green energy. And I think as fossil fuel moves out and renewable energy gets more prominence, newer energy sources are lesser labor intensive and therefore more favorable for women, you know. So it's time to introduce more women into the sector, and Vishali is the chair of SAVI, which is a South Energy Women for Network, and I'm the co-chair. So both of us are really driving very, very hard to get more and more women introduced into the sector, into DREs, mini grids, solar pumps, providing reliable electric and consequently contributing to savings and enabling women of these opportunities by upskilling them and also generating income. We've seen that through the self-help groups, women have played a very big role in the solar lantern space, and I see that a lot of EV players are also coming in, where e-rickshaws are being given to women by Seva, by Shell, and some of the foundations, where women entrepreneurs are being developed by providing them the e-rickshaw. A World Bank paper reports that household electrification in rural India led to a significant increase in women's non-farm self-employment, and that had a very, very big impact also on girls' schooling. Female workforce could contribute to energy access, and I just shared with you that the self-help groups did a phenomenal work. And therefore, I think we've seen a lot of women startups coming up. I mean, I'm a great admirer of Battery Wali, who came up in storage. Great admirer of Frontier Markets, who's doing a lot of work in Rajasthan with women entrepreneurs. Dharma Life and Seva, Shell Foundation, Women on Wings. Several of those NGOs that I have worked with in my previous avatar with Philips Foundation, and as the head of the base of the pyramid solar business. I also read up a lot about this Telangana-based B2B company, Sterilite, which has set up its EV electric vehicle entrepreneurs, providing them e-rickshaws. So I think we are in a good space, and I look forward to more and more incentives, policies. And lastly, I also want to share with you that as the chair of the Center for Clean Energy at Plaksha University, which is a sister university of Ashoka, and has collaborated with Purdue, Stanford, and Berkeley, very, very happy to collaborate with the corporates, think tanks, to be able to start curriculum to educate our tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 students into engineering programs on clean energy, and especially the digital transformation in energy is the intersection that we play in. So with that, I hand it over back to Ashok, and I hope I haven't exceeded your time.
No, definitely not, Dr. Charlene. And we all are quite amazed to see the passion which you have for climate change. And you have worked for so many years towards it. And we can see that from your deliberation, that how compassionate and passionate you are about this topic. And I'm sure that the audiences who are hearing you and with us, they definitely realize this. And till the time each one of us becomes so serious like you about this topic, I don't think much transformation is going to happen. So we need to think over it. And again, awareness is very important. And you did mention about the statistics, the dashboards, etc. I think fear plays an important role. Unless anybody is fearful about this topic, that if we don't do this, we are going to die or it's going to harm us. I think people don't move. So it's a very important point you have mentioned that we need to work on this literacy part where we need to educate and make people aware of, in simple language and in simple infographics, which are easy to absorb and easy to understand. So very valid points made by you, Dr. Shalini. And with that, I would move to the next speaker. I definitely thank you for joining us on this web conference of Earth Day. And it's always so nice to share this dais and panel with you, Dr. Shalini.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini. So our next speaker is Mr. Ajay Shankar, and he comes from Delhi. He has over 45 years of experience in the power and urban development. So he has played an important role here, and some of his notable projects have been the Bombay-Delhi corridor, if I'm not wrong. And we are grateful to have you with us, Mr. Ajay Shankar, and we would like to understand from you what are the important steps and measures and work Terry as an organization is doing. And when we are here on this platform today and talking about climate change, climate literacy, and restoring our Earth, what are your views and what points you would like to put on this forum? Over to you, Mr. Ajay Shankar.
Let me begin by thanking you for giving me the privilege of being with you this evening. These have been annual events, and 51 years is the age of the movement now. And normally we've been meeting, and those of us who are committed to the cause feel like missionaries trying to propagate our ideas and to get others to see merit in what we've been pushing for. And it's generally been a bit of an uphill task how to get mainstream public opinion to come on board. This year, I think we're reaching or have reached an inflection point globally, because the kind of groundswell of opinion which is now in favor of doing the right thing is very encouraging, and therefore there is cause for optimism. I mean, we see it in the results of the US election. We see it as climate change become one of the 4 top priorities of President Biden. He's talking of a new Green Deal. He's holding a global summit. In Europe, people have just announced more ambitious targets. And even in the first presentation this evening, a chemical company like BASF was telling us that they think net carbon zero is possible for them also by 2050. So one cause for optimism is how public opinion has shifted. The other cause of optimism is that how technology has moved and moved very rapidly, and how costs have come down. So while there is greater willingness to do what is needed to save Mother Earth, the costs of doing so have also come down. So that, I think, makes the future look a little more optimistic. And the 2 themes you've picked up today, adopting green energy and clean transportation, these are the 2, I think, real big major building blocks. So when we talk of green energy, the ideal is an energy or an electricity system which is free of fossil fuels altogether. Now, in the Biden campaign, they were saying they will achieve it in the US in 2035. In California, they have a law of 2018, they will do it by 2045. And whatever I heard in the opening remarks about from the storage community, we clearly are on the verge of a major breakthrough in storage. So this decade, I think we'll see breakthroughs in costs, in technologies, and in deployment for storage at a micro level as well as the grid level. And we in India are fortunately in the forefront of this. Last year, SECI invited bids for supply of renewable energy plus storage. We got 2 successful bids, And the prices we got were far better than expected. And they are competitive with new coal-based power. So we could well be reaching a point that we could take a decision as a country that we need not start work on any new coal-fired stations, not because we want to be green, but even economically it may be making sense. There is a recent Tariff study which says that if you increase the share of renewables to 40% from the present level of around 10% in electricity generation, not capacity, there is no additional cost at the system level. And to give it some sense of perspective, Germany already has 46% of renewables in their system, but they are privileged because they have a lot of wind power and wind blows in the night. We have to do a lot more solar and see how we can absorb that without adding additional costs. One of the recommendations we have made recently in a Tariff paper is that we introduce a feed-in tariff at village level for supply of power to the grid at the kilowatt range, less than 1 megawatt. This is in sync with what the finance minister said in her budget speech last year, that farmers can get higher income by generating solar power. This is also at the core of the Kusum scheme conceived by government, that farmers generate solar power, use it to pump water, and become more self-reliant, and the whole system gains. Now, if we are looking at a village level, below 1 megawatt level of feed-in tariff system, it makes the target of 450,000 megawatts announced by the Prime Minister readily achievable, because we have 6 lakh villages in the country. 1 megawatt per village is not too difficult. This is win-win for the power business, because every distribution company incurs a cost of somewhere between 6 and 8 rupees to take a unit of electricity to the village, and which is why they've been reluctant to take it and still don't give 24 hours reliable supply. With generation at the village level, we can easily give farmers in the day electricity for irrigation. Agricultural productivity would rise, farmers' incomes would rise, and it will be a huge breakthrough for India. In parallel, the world of storage can move, because micro level storage is already attractive enough. I mean, the whole Light a Billion Lives movement demonstrated that. But we can gradually move up the value chain for grid storage. And if you have a system which is fully green, fossil fuel free for electricity, a huge breakthrough has already happened in saving Mother Earth and in terms of climate change. Now, clean transportation is the other pillar of your theme today. And electric mobility has arrived in terms of being commercially competitive today. So if you look at a life cycle per kilometer cost, an electric vehicle is the cheapest mode of transport, except for trucks and buses. So, and India is well positioned because we have an electric mobility mission. I was glad to hear praise for Delhi. They're trying to do the right things. So my belief is, and our belief in Terry, is that if you have electric charging stations in the cities spread out quickly enough, then the market will drive the transition towards electric vehicles much faster than anybody imagines or foresees. Because if you have a charging station, then the economics will drive the consumer to buying electric vehicles, whether it's two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler. And fortunately, the system for rolling out charging stations in the cities is getting in place, and that's one of our major recommendations in another Terry paper, that if we do that, and then we are through in terms of transition to electric mobility. And globally, this is the in thing. So Norway, I think, succeeded last year in achieving a situation, because they put up the charging infrastructure, that more EVs were bought than conventional vehicles. And UK, as a part of its 2050 net zero target, has said that by 2030, only non-fossil fuel vehicles can be sold in UK. Now, we need not make laws. I think the market will take us there very fast, much faster than we thought would be possible. So once you have EVs on road, and you have an electric system which doesn't use fossil fuels, and the two goals could well be achieved more or less around the same time, then you have a huge transition, and then the transition to a net carbon neutral economy doesn't appear that daunting. And it may well happen in a manner where it doesn't impose additional costs either to us as taxpayers through the budget or to us as consumers in the market. So that's the direction in which we are headed, I think. And I think the progress we'll make would be much faster than most of us are anticipating right now, because technology costs have moved dramatically in the right direction. Now, there's one more part of transport which I think is also worth highlighting, which is not getting that much attention. Germany recently did a very interesting pilot project, which is that they put up an overhead cable in one lane of their highway, and you had hybrid trucks or buses using that overhead cable for moving on highways. So it's like a tram moving. In the old days in European cities, you had electric buses also. I think they still are in a couple of cities. So that becomes very cheap. And if the electricity is again carbon neutral, then the traction is carbon neutral. And when this truck moves off the highway, like any hybrid, it will use petrol, etc. And then, so transport can move very rapidly to becoming net carbon neutral. So I would advocate that we do a pilot in India, work with the truck manufacturers, get some hybrid vehicles on the road, one stretch of the highway anywhere, and see how it works. Because we have a massive highway construction program, an expressway construction program, and this is the right time to leapfrog and put in these overhead electric cables and move to green transport. And this is a personal view. I think it would be better to move aggressively for electricity-based transport rather than try and get into gas as an intermediate way of getting low carbon, because then you'll have to phase out gas when you want to become free of carbon emissions. So I think using gas as an intermediate kind of fuel for transport, I think that idea is, in my view, dated, and we should go straight for electricity as aggressively as possible. And one final point, and which is that the role of people like us in bringing issues to the public domain, in getting public discussion on it, in getting a buy-in from everybody, including the political class, because we normally tend to stay away from them, but at the end of the day, they have to understand and drive processes. So we have a huge challenge and responsibility to communicate with everybody within society with facts and figures, and let people also agree on what is the right way forward. But I think I'm very optimistic about India, because if I look at the last 10 years, we have surprised ourselves in the world with the success we have achieved in solar mission. We wanted only 20,000 megawatts by now. We are already ahead of it. And now the target went up to 170,000 megawatts. It's now 450,000 megawatts. We are overachieving on our Paris commitment. So I think we can continue to be in the forefront in the global movement to saving Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay Shankar. Very well valid points related to our sector. And your personal views are also nice to hear. And I'm sure that this reaches to the right authorities. But again, my question is the pace. We have so many brilliant and bright ideas, but the pace at which we are moving forward is literally crawling, and it's in a bad shape. So if we can, as industry stakeholders and the policymakers, devise a way that we can fast track all these efforts, then probably we can reach in the right directions. Dr. Shalini did mention about cycling in Holland.
Add something there, that again India is in a good place, because the number of private persons and private organizations who want to become net carbon neutral, who want to use only EVs, only want to get their supply chain to use EVs, that is rising very rapidly. So that again is a cause for optimism and hope.
Absolutely. That is what we are all gearing up to and looking forward, that we must be optimistic, and we need to push it so hard that everybody in the ecosystem and all important stakeholders have the right spirit, they know the direction, and we know the goal where we are leading. There should not be much distractions or confusion, because then, everything will be lost. And since today we all gathered here to celebrate 51st anniversary of Earth Day, it's been a long movement, and we are glad that we are part of this movement. And audiences who have been with us today, and also the ones who will read, listen, and hear, all our leaders, I'm sure they will have a lot of insights from this. And before I say thank to all of them, I just have 2-3 more lines to add before I close. That considering almost the desperate state of Earth today, we now need a multi-pronged approach to reduce greenhouse gas emission. Decarbonization, or allowing coal and petroleum to remain under earth where they belong, is currently the goal. So we need to work on this direction. A lot of global companies, the actually troublemaking companies who have been in the petroleum business and who have been creating pollution for so many years, now they have awakened, and now they are pledging that whatever wrong they have done for so many years, they are trying to correct it. And they're all coming forward one by one and pledging towards climate goals. And by 2050, everybody's talking about decarbonization. And I definitely have read about this organization co-founded with Amazon and Global Optimism, that these companies have come forward and they are trying to meet these goals of Paris Agreement 10 years early. So this type of spirit, this type of fast tracking our deeds and actions probably will lead us in right direction. Dr. Charlene, you want to add something there?
No, I'm good. I think it was wonderful listening to Mr. Ajay Shankar as well. And I don't have anything more to add.
Thank you, Dr. Charlene. So I take this opportunity to thank Earth Day Network to collaborate with India Energy Storage Alliance and Customized Energy Solutions, and definitely ETN Magazine for helping us in India chapter and organizing this event. We have collaborated with them for other events also. We are looking forward to collaborate with larger numbers from the industry, so that together as corporates we can help support this movement to take it to the next level. So again, thank you for joining us, and it was really nice that you joined us and deliberated on this topic. I'm sure we meet again shortly. Stay safe, as it's crazy outside the world, but I'm sure that together we will all pass this as well. So thank you and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.